Thank you all. Assalamu alaikum. So the answers weren't coming from there. But we needed an identity. We needed a sense of belonging, and we needed an outlet to express our raw anger at society, at the police, and at the establishment, and at the mosque, and at everyone. And it was at this stage, at 16 years old, that I met a young medical student who was from my own county, an intelligent man who spoke English. And he came and addressed my problems. And he taught to me Islam in a way I'd never heard it before. Actually, I'd say he taught to me a revolutionary doctrine, an ideology. He gave me a reason to hate society, but also a sense of belonging. I wasn't British, but nor was I Pakistani. In fact, Britain was the head of colonialism, the snake, and Pakistan was a creation of colonialism. I had to reject both. I was Muslim first and Muslim last. And my true political entity, my true political mission was to bring back the Khilafah, the Caliphate, which had been destroyed in 1924. And after that point, Muslims had been broken up into many, many small statelets. And so I had to strive to overthrow the corruption of freedom and democracy that led to nothing but discrimination and attacks against Muslims, and work in the world to bring back the global superpower, the Khilafah, that would protect my people from the genocide that I witnessed in Bosnia. This was the time that Bosnia was playing out, and it was a very powerful recruitment narrative. You're being stabbed and targeted and harassed at home, and in Europe they're killing Muslims even when they have white skin. So these are blonde-haired, blue-eyed Muslims, and what they cannot tolerate is the presence of Muslims in Europe. You're not being attacked because you're brown, you're being attacked because you're a Muslim. And Bosnia is evidence for that. So I adopted this narrative at 16 years old, and I joined Hizb ut-Tahrir. Has anyone heard of Hizb ut-Tahrir? So Hizb ut-Tahrir is a global Islamist organization. It's a revolutionary organization. They believe that democracy is kufr, that any Muslim who calls for democracy is an apostate if you believe in it. They believe that the nation state is kufr, that Pakistan has no right to exist, that Egypt has no right to exist, that Somalia has no right to exist, that Nigeria has no right to exist, that Saudi Arabia has no right to exist. They also believe that the entire world today is the abode of apostasy, Dar al-Kufr, Dar al-Harb, including, na'udhu billah, Mecca and Medina, for them is Dar al-Kufr. They believe that the Haram al-Sharif, the Kaaba, is today Dar al-Kufr. And they reject every single Muslim majority government. What they're working towards is to establish the global Khilafah by overthrowing these governments through military coups, by infiltrating the army of these countries and forcibly removing the regimes and imposing their interpretation of Islam over the rest of society. So I joined this group at 16 years old as a means to express my anger and as an alternative identity to the one that I didn't have, neither as a British nor a Pakistani young man. I then went on. At 16, I left home. I left my family. I moved to London, 50 miles from where I'm from. I joined a college that was heavily populated by Muslims. And I began organizing. My purpose was to recruit. I stood for election of president of the Students' Union, and my entire committee were activists of Hizb ut-Tahrir, HT we say in English, HT. And we took over the Students' Union. I was elected as president, and the other committee, 6 of them, were all activists from the same group. We took over the campus, we controlled the Students' Union, we used all of the money. Funny part, we took all of the money and gave it to the Islamic Society. And we began radicalizing the campus. Within the space of a few months, we had taken existing gang tensions between the Nigerian origin students and the South Asian origin students, the Pakistanis and the Bangladeshis, who were Muslims, and the Nigerians were Nigerian Christians. And there were existing gang-related tensions. We turned those tensions into ideological conflict. We went to the South Asian Muslims and we said, you're Muslim, this is why they're attacking you. You need to unite, organize, build a coalition of Muslims, learn your identity, learn your faith, and then Allah will defend you. So we used Islam as a way to radicalize what was existing gang-related tensions. Sadly, within the space of a few months, one of our supporters, who was a Somali Muslim, Said Noor, was convicted of murdering a Nigerian Christian student on that campus by plunging a machete through his heart. He's now serving a life sentence in prison. I, as president of the Students' Union, and the entire committee were expelled from the college. But that did not deter me from my activities. I continued recruiting to Hizb ut-Tahrir with the justification that we had not called for nor ordered the murder, which is the truth. But with hindsight, what we must accept responsibility for is that we created the atmosphere, the poisonous atmosphere, that allowed for that murder to happen. And that's what radicalization is. Radicalization is when you create the atmosphere that can breed violent intolerance. And it's not a long leap to make. If racism spreads in society against black people, then racist attacks are more likely. If the idea spreads in society that non-Muslims are somehow subhuman, hellbound, secondary citizens, and that Muslims are superior, then religiously driven and motivated attacks will spread in society. It's no great leap of imagination. And that's what happened on that campus in those days. I continued with my activities until in 1999 I got a request from the global leader of Hizb ut-Tahrir to move to Pakistan to establish the group there, because Pakistan had tested its first nuclear bomb. Some of you remember that. And the idea was, if we can establish the Khilafah in Pakistan, we'll have a nuclear jihad. And so, members were needed to go there and create the group. So we left in 1999 as a young 20-year-old. I moved countries for the first time going to Pakistan and set up the basis for this organization there. 10, 12 years later, they're now going strong. I spent 1 year there, joining the various colleges, going around the country, recruiting people to this organization. In the year 2000, I came back to England and I received another request that they needed people to go to Denmark. So from Monday to Friday, I was studying for my law degree, and on the weekends, every weekend, I would fly out to Denmark to create the group there. And then in the year 2000, I ended up in Egypt, which is where we began this story from. So by the age of 24, I had set up this group in England, in Pakistan, and in Denmark, contributed to setting up this group, and being a speaker, an organizer, and recruiter for this group in those 3 countries, and then ended up in Egypt. And I mentioned my age at the time because there's another lesson that we will draw from this, and that is how young minds are exploited and used for what they think is serving